Hi, welcome to another episode of Astro Talks. We have Lucia Robelo, our resident astrologer, and we've got Andrea Rickett and myself, Nicole Donnelly from AstroJoy. Today, we're going to bring you information about retrogrades, and we're going to discuss what the different retrogrades are that might be significant in your chart, and how when Mercury goes retrograde and you have Mercury retrograde in your chart, what that means, because that's the biggest one that everybody knows and talks about, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks again. So, Lucia, why don't you please give us a little intro to retrogrades?
So retrogrades are, the planet doesn't necessarily go retrograde. It's just from our viewpoint, from our standpoint, from where we are on Earth, then it's, the orbit seems to be changing. But that has, an effect on us. So because the planet will move forward, but with the how the in the ecliptic, each planet has its own ecliptic, and then that's where we notice the difference, and that's the difference that we feel. So let's start with Mercury. So, but what does Mercury rule? Mercury rules communication, transportation, the thought process, the mind. So that's when, a lot of people read about, oh, be careful with traveling when Mercury is retrograde, because it's about communication, transportation. And what happens is that maybe your flight is delayed or your flight is completely canceled. And that it could happen, that's when I read an article once that a lot of IT people get more service tickets when Mercury goes retrograde. And it's because, like, things freeze, like the internet slows down. All of a sudden, you have to do a mega update on your computer and 10 minutes before an important meeting.
So if you have Mercury retrograde, like in your birth chart, because Andrea does, and my husband does too, and he's in tech. So is he just like destined to have more problems in that area?
So that's only when it's this example is when we are feeling it, right? So if we want to move to when it's in a chart, then in a chart it's just your thought process, your communication is just not linear. So it's out of sequence. So you may communicate, instead of communicating through A, B, C, you communicate B, C, A, or C, B, A. It's not linear. It's a little bit more scattered. So the way that, for instance, if you're typing an email, you may start with the N, and then you add context to the sentence. And then when you read it, oh, that may be out of sequence, out of order. So let me copy and paste, right? Or cut and paste. And then, oh, okay, now it's linear. Now it makes sense. A beginning, middle, and end. And the way they process communication and thought is end, middle, beginning. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah, it does. And he's so adamant about communication being in a certain order, like when we're talking about things too. And maybe it's like an insecurity around it. I don't know. And I just spit things out, and I don't care if it's messy and, like it gets cleaned up. But that's really interesting. So is there anything else on Mercury retrograde in a birth chart?
It's just, learning sometimes can be difficult, but it's not just to deter you from learning. It's more about how you express the communication. So sometimes it's just like having that a little bit like taking a little longer to absorb the information, especially depending where your Mercury is in. Mercury in an earth sign loves communication. It's already earth thinking, that's what earth element represents. So if you have a Mercury in an earth sign retrograde, you're going to feel the impact a little less. If you have Mercury retrograde in a fire sign, it's going to also feel less, but if you have it, Mercury retrograde in a water sign, in a water sign, it's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Yes, it may be harder because already Mercury is uncomfortable there. Already Mercury, because what is water, feelings and emotions. So Mercury is already difficult. It's already like, what am I doing here? I need to think, I need to communicate, I need words, and it's just feelings. So these people are already very intuitive, and with the retrograde, it's just, like harder to communicate sometimes. So, and whereas with the fire sign, Mercury in a fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, those are like already impulsive. So they just go. And so it may slow down how impulsive they are, but it won't slow down the complete thought process. With Earth signs, in Taurus, yes, Mercury in Taurus in retrograde, you're going to feel it more. Why? Because Taurus in Mercury in Taurus is already a slow thought process, but because it's the nature of the sign. Remember that the planet is the what, and the sign is the how. How is that energy? So we have the planet, what, Mercury, communication, thought process. The how is the sign. So we have how in Taurus. How is Taurus? Slow, grounded, reliable, stubborn. So those are the characteristics that it takes. That's the flavor. So when it's retrograde, it's going to be, just a little bit just more challenging. But on the contrary, because Mercury also rules Virgo, it rules Gemini. Everyone knows that. Geminis are fantastic communicators. But with ruling Virgo, it's a perfect, and it loves to be in Capricorn because it's business minded, it's structure, it's work, it has a purpose, it can do its job, so the energy is being used. But then, like that's why, it's a little bit harder on water signs. And so yes, so that's a little bit of Mercury retrograde in a natal chart.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking at my chart, my daughter's chart, my husband's chart, like computing all of this. I'm like, okay, I got that, That's
right.
helpful.
I'm looking at my chart too. So
yeah.
So if I look down, it's not because I'm not listening, it's because I am listening and I'm trying to find it on my chart. So.
I know I took some notes too.
I have all my notes. So like, I can't always remember what the planets are. So I drew them out on my little list here so I can look at that.
Nice.
Okay. So what's the next most significant retrograde?
So I just wanted to quickly mention that, Mercury is going to go retrograde on January 30th, at the end of this month. And so it's just a matter of like, just, being careful with communication, with that process. It's just a matter of reviewing, it's about not like being scared. It's just about just, before sending an email that quickly, just review it, just make sure that you're revisiting things that you've already done, or maybe it's a good time to revisit any work done, and just be careful with the way you communicate because it may be interpreted in a different way, but it's all good. And it's going to last until February 20th because it takes about 3 weeks on its retrograde. So, and this year we're only going to have 3 retrogrades again, as opposed to 2016 that we had 4 retrogrades. And in 2022, next year, we're going to have 4 retrogrades as well of Mercury. So basically the whole year. Yes. And that's a little bit more challenging because we're all like, oh my God, why can I not talk and communicate for the whole year? But it's just yes, but yeah, like it's okay. Yes, it's like, what we want to review. It's I love it because it really gives, yes, it has the pros and cons, like the high road and the low road of it. The pros is that yes, we get to review a lot of stuff that we have accomplished, or maybe someone has an online course. It's a good time to review and edit. And, like the program, the outline, or if writing a book, it's a great time also not to like start the writing process, but it's a great time to revisit all the chapters that, what has been written. So, every astrological transit serves its purpose.
Okay, good to know. Because
Yes.
I have a book that I wrote and I've revisited and re-edited it, and it's probably time to do that again. So it's like I can use that retrograde energy and just kind of plan it during that time to revisit.
Yeah.
And then
It's
the
a
next
great time
edition
for
can
it.
come out. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So the next planet that influences a lot when it comes to retrogrades in a natal chart is Venus. What
Okay.
does Venus represent? It represents the love, relationships, what we wish, what we like, what we desire. So if we were to put you in a place like what are you attracted to? Like a great analogy is, if someone were to put you in a mall, right? Where will you be attracted to? So Venus in earth signs, bookstores, Venus in fire signs, athletics, Venus in water sign, metaphysics, so Venus in earth signs, what can I build, or fancy stores because it loves the good stuff in life. So it's and so it's what we want when we're attracted to what we how we beauty, how we dress ourselves. It's just the values, what's important to us. And when Venus is retrograde in a chart, it's also, significant because what we want, what we desire, there's a hesitation to go after it. So it's like you get indecisive. You don't know, like, oh, I want this, but I also want that. And so, or let's say you're designing a home and you're torn between like, oh, I want country chic. No, but I only want chic, like I want more like modern. No, but I also like traditional. So you're constantly torn, between wanted to what you want, what you desire. That's in that category. If it's in a relationship, then what you want and what you like in a partner gets hard because you're constantly changing, the characteristics that you're looking for. And because of that, there could be a potential for cheating there, not that I'm calling anyone cheaters, but it's just a potential, because something to be mindful because it's I get bored. You get bored easily in a relationship, because it's that there's a hesitation, there's a lapse, the planet is not fully embracing where it is.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter, she's got her retrograde in Gemini, like her Venus is retrograde in Gemini, and she's very distinct in her looks, but it could be pajamas one day and then it could be like the, what do they call it? Cottage core, like she's wanted to go more cottage core lately. And then it could be a sporty for horse riding and she feels good in that, but it changes. And yeah, and she's Gemini. So it's like, you get the duality of it too. She has a Libra boyfriend, so that's helpful probably.
Oh, that's good. Yes. Yeah. Gotta be mentally stimulated and they love communication. Venus in their signs, they love communication. They in relationship, they need a partner to talk to. So if she would be dating someone with water sign, oh my God, it would, it would be harder on her because like water signs are more introspect and they talk less. So, and Gemini just always needs to talk and talk and talk and talk, right? So they need that mental stimulation, a partner they can have good conversations with. So that's good.
Yeah, they're hilarious to listen to. They're so funny going back and forth. Like they are nonstop when they're together.
Yes, and when Venus is retrograde in a when it's in a transit, one in the present time. It goes retrograde every 18 months, and it's going to go retrograde again this year, but until December 19th. So thankfully, the whole year we're going to be fine, because in 2020, it was retrograde from May to June. So of course it had to be retrograde in 2020. Everyone and their mothers was retrograde in 2020.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Venus retrograde, Mars, Mercury, that always goes retrograde. But Venus and Mars don't always go retrograde, and they were in 2020. So like what happens is that when it's retrograde, we're hesitating on what we want. If maybe I should go in this direction, maybe I should go in the other direction. So just as a precaution, just don't commit to anything until it's out of the retrograde, because you may commit to something and then you're going to change your mind when the retrograde is over. It lasts about 6 weeks. So I know, people cannot put their lives on hold for 6 weeks. I totally get it, but it's just something to be mindful that if you're looking for a job or something, it's just, hold on, because you may like it, but then, oh no, I changed my mind, or I changed the way I feel about it. It's just, it happens to all of us, to the best of us. When Venus goes retrograde, I'm like, okay, you're playing tricks on me. Before this, I was feeling this other way. So, and it's just, I understand the transit. We're not, just because we understand what's going on, it's not like we are exempt from it. But yes, just be mindful. And yes, and relationships get tested too. Relationships get tested, because all of a sudden you don't see your partner with the same eyes, and it's because
I think if I recall, Mercury is making a tension and hard angle with Uranus, because Mercury is in Aquarius, and Uranus it's making a hard tension to it. So Aquarius and Taurus, Mercury, that's two fixed signs, so they're making an angle, a hard one. So yes, it's when Mercury it's in a hard angle with a planet, especially Uranus, that is technology. They call it, it's like a mini Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, maybe that's what we're having right now. That happened when I did a live earlier today, and I couldn't get it to go live on YouTube, wouldn't work, and then I couldn't open the program, and I had 2 updates today, and it was like, I don't know. So anyway, here we are. We're back.
We're going to Mars now, aren't we? I think, let's see. I don't have a retrograde in Mars. Nope, Sarah, Tom, nobody does here.
Me.
You?
Yeah.
You have a Mars retrograde?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us.
So when the Mars is retrograde, there is less action. So if you were to have Mars in a fire sign such as Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, those, Mars like to be in those signs, because those signs represent action, movement, energy. So Mars can do its job, because Mars is about action, doing stuff, how we gain and receive energy. Some people gain energy by doing stuff. Those are people that naturally have Mars in a fire sign. But if that Mars is retrograde, then it feels like an inaction. It's harder to take action. It's just harder to give that step, So it's just the nature of it. But people may feel it a little less when it's in a fire sign. People will feel the retrograde, the essence of the retrograde, of that inaction, a lot more when it's in a water sign, or when it's in the air sign, because it's in a water sign such as Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, and air sign Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And it's because the planet, it's doing the job, how a little slower. When it's in a water sign, Mars just wants to go more internal, and Mars likes to be external, likes to be outgoing.
That makes
And
sense.
in a water sign,
I
and
kind
in
of
a
see
water
it as
sign,
like Mars is action, like you said. So if you're a fire sign in action, you're probably doing more action than normal. And so for me,
mine's in Leo.
mine's in Leo also, but it's a retrograde. So it almost like neutralizes it, huh? Because it's not like super action, but it's retrograde. So it's kind of like normal action now.
yeah.
Okay.
It cuts off that impulse, like it cuts off that impulse that I'm like, so it's just like, oh yeah, it neutralizes. It's less. But a person with a water, with Mars in a water sign, yes, it feel more restrictive. That's what it will be, because they are like, it's something holding back. It's like, oh, should I, do I do it? It's like they may really want to do it, but when it comes to the time to take action, it's just like, there's a hesitant. There's hesitation.
Interesting. That's my daughter's. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So she has Venus and Mars retrograde.
No, it's not retrograde, but it's in water. Her Mars is in water in Cancer.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So it's just more her energy in Cancer, her energy goes towards the home. Yeah. And that's where it goes. Her attention, her attention goes towards the home. And so that's because Cancer represents the home. So family. And
yeah.
Yes. And Mars was already retrograde in 2020, so now it's going to be retrograde, right? Now it's going to be retrograde again until 2022. So we're good for 2021.
Oh, excellent! I like that.
Yes. So and it will be until October.
Okay.
So that's
October
like
2022.
That's a good amount of time where just the general energy is more productive and work oriented, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. And if someone has a retrograde in Jupiter, what it is that those people have a strong sense of ethics. And a strong sense of morality, or can be wise beyond their years. Do you feel that way?
Yes. Yeah. We both have it. So.
Oh. We're old souls. We've been around.
Yep.
Yes. Because Jupiter is the wise, Jupiter is the philosopher, Jupiter is the teacher, so that's what, like Sagittarius, take on those characteristics, because Sagittarius are ruled by Jupiter. So, and so then you're going to feel that, that presence even more, because you're natural Sagittarius. So, yes, and then when it comes to Saturn and Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, those are the most outer planets. So when those are in retrograde, it's just that it takes a little longer to really understand the lessons or understand, but it just takes, the time, maybe you come to your senses, like later in life, but you feel this a little less. And it's not like the ones that impact you the most are the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Those are going to feel, no matter what else you have in your chart, you're going to feel that. But the other ones, it's outer planets, the energy is less. And with those, it's more important the conversations that those planets are making with the other planets in your chart. That's what will be more important over the retrograde. So whereas with Mercury, Venus, and Mars, the retrograde stands out. With the other ones, it's like it's more important to see the conversation that is making. In astrology is called the aspects.
Okay.
I wonder what it would be like to have a retrograde in all three of the inner ones. Have you come across anyone like that?
No, I often see more Mercury retrograde because that's the one that goes retrograde the most, and then I see Venus, but I, like even Mars retrograde, I rarely see it. I've seen it of course, but rarely. But I haven't seen all three. I mean, I have Mercury and Venus retrograde, so I got two out of three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of relate to that.
Yes. And then but Mars, no, thankfully I got a break there.
Yeah. I made up for that for you. So,
So when you're looking at the planetary positions, there's direct, retrograde, and then stationary. I see on one of these.
Yeah.
What is
stationary? It's when the planet goes it's the day that the planet goes either retrograde or direct. So when
it's a stationary R.
It just stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for instance, when Mercury is going to go retrograde on January 30th, we say, Mercury is stationary because it's going to, change position.
Okay.
Change position, and then when it goes direct, February 20th, it's stationary. And that's why, because it's the day that it's, stops.
That makes sense, because it's like moving forward to go backwards, and then that point where it starts to go, it's got to stop somewhere. So okay.
Yes. And actually that day, people think because that day there's a misconception because it's, retrograde, it goes direct this day. No, it doesn't mean that you are out of the woods. You're still not able to, the decisions. You have to even be more careful on that day because, people are just off, like what's going on. Everyone's confused. So it's not a good day to book important meetings. Like, I understand the world moves on and goes forward. I get it, but it's just, if you can, try not to book important meetings on those 2 days, because again, it's the 30th of January and the 20th of February, because that everyone is just confused.
Yeah, when you were explaining that, I kind of got this visual of like a riptide or something. So like the waves coming this way, and then when they sort of pull back their directions, that's when it gets all. So that makes sense. Not only stationary, but like you might get like an abundance of all the energy, in that moment, before it either relieves or goes the other way. So yeah.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah. Both of those days are on weekends, so that's helpful.
Oh, good. At least for the meeting part, right?
Yeah, they're both Saturdays.
Oh, good.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great,
okay, well, thank you. Thanks, Lucia. This has been an awesome conversation. Again, today about retrogrades. And we will see you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.